No one is born with emotional regulation skills. We're born with our temperament, but regulation is a skill that we learn. So if you've ever thought, this is just how I am, you just may be missing the skills because your parents didn't know it. Their parents didn't know it. And so you come from this lineage of experiencing the same patterns of how to deal with conflict. So does that mean you're doomed? Absolutely not. You can absolutely do something about that because all that is learning emotional regulation. Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. In this episode, you're going to learn why how you handle your emotions is not actually a personality trait, and how learning clear emotional language can immediately change how you experience conflict and connection. So we're diving straight into emotional regulation, which is so huge if you want healthy communication, if you want solid connection, if you want a strong partnership, and most importantly, a successful marriage for decades to come. If you're like me, you likely grew up and maybe even still think that your personality and your temperament are the same as how you regulate your emotions. Let me back up and explain what I mean. I grew up thinking that I was just a really irritable person and I got angry easily. And I would get into these like passive aggressive arguments, especially romantic partners. And I thought that that was just me. And a common phrase that I would say is, well, this is just who I am. What you see is what you get kind of situation. And little did I know that that was actually very untrue. It was false. And believing that that was me was so disempowering because I would go see other people out there in the world not behaving this way, not having these like outbursts and strong reactions to things, and wonder, well, why can't I be like that? Maybe I'm just unlucky, right? Maybe that's just not who I am. But then it's like, well, what does that mean about how I experience marriage and serious relationships then? Am I just screwed? Am I doomed to experience constant arguing? Because that doesn't sound good, right? Even though I found myself in arguments a lot, that doesn't mean that I necessarily want to be in them. It doesn't mean that I enjoy having them. So what do I do about that, right? Am I just locked into this life that this is how I'm going to experience it with just tons of arguing? But here's the truth. If you're like how I was before, I'm here to shatter that lie and let you know that no, they're not the same. Your lack of regulation skills to handle your emotions and do so in a healthy way, in a calmer way, that's not something that has to do with you as a person. And that has everything to do with you not learning them. No one is born with emotional regulation skills. Those are learned. We're born with our temperament, but regulation is very much a skill that we learn. So if you've ever thought, this is just how I am, take it or leave it, there may be absolutely nothing wrong with you. You just may be missing the skills that you were never taught because your parents didn't know it. Their parents didn't know it. And so you come from this lineage of experiencing the same patterns of how to deal with conflict. So, does that mean you're doomed? Absolutely not. That's why I'm super glad you're here listening to this podcast so that you can know that this is not your fault and you can absolutely do something about that, because I am living proof that you can learn the skills and you can change the trajectory of how you experience conflict with your kids, with your spouse, with anyone that matters, because all that is learning emotional regulation. Okay. And so if you feel like you are reactive, if you shut down during conflict, if you get really overwhelmed and emotional really quickly, like I'm talking 0 to 60, you're like, I don't know where that came from. I was cool, calm, collected, and now I am like raging. You're not alone. Okay. I myself was like that, quick to anger and just super reactive. And the fight, flight, fawn, or freeze coping mechanism, I was definitely fight. Okay, so I found myself in tons of arguments I didn't need to be in looking back. And I just didn't know how to navigate my emotions or how to navigate conflict and communication to experience anything different, because that's not what I grew up with. I wasn't modeled it. And so I had to go learn it on my own. And maybe you're the same. And it does kind of feel like a burden sometimes, right? Because it's tough to do something that you haven't had any healthy examples of. And this is such a powerful invitation for you to break the cycle, for you to improve how you experience conflict in your life, for you to strengthen how your marriage handles conflict, and for you to model to your kids how to handle conflict in a different way than you were shown, so that they don't have to deal with the struggles that you've been through with not having these skills. So, yeah, you can view it as a burden because it is work to do, but once you know it, conflict doesn't feel that big inside anymore. And then you can feel more confident about knowing, oh, I can handle this. Yeah, it's annoying. Yeah, it's emotional, but I don't have to worry about those blowups anymore. I don't have to worry about things spiraling out of control. Okay. And that's what learning emotional regulation can do. And it is so exciting when I get to teach my clients this and they start to pick it up and they start to apply it to their marriage. It's like you can visibly see the weight lifted off of them. Things don't feel as heavy, and partnership gets to flourish. Their connection gets to flourish, and it's just incredible. Okay. And I wish we were all lucky that we all were able to learn this from our parents. But if you're like me, then you didn't, right? And now it's up to us to learn it as adults. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're behind, right? It just means that this is part of your journey, right? All humans have some kind of challenges that they encounter in life. And maybe this is just yours, right? And so I want to go back to what I was saying earlier about our temperament and regulation and what the differences are. So your temperament is just how your nervous system is wired. So whether you're quick to react, slow to react, how you as a person respond to the world, that is your temperament. Regulation is how you navigate what you feel. So those are two very different things, right? So I'm still very much the same temperament, although maybe it's calmed down a little bit because I've gotten more mature. My brain is fully developed compared to when I was, 25 and under. But the thing that's made the biggest difference is that my regulation skills got to improve because I actually put in the work to do that. So it's not the temperament that's the problem. It's whether you have the regulation skills, right? And thankfully, they're skills. It means that you can learn them, right? So if you don't have them, you can learn them. So you don't need to change who you are to have a successful, fulfilling marriage. All you need are the tools to work with who you already are, right? Learning how to manage certain parts of you, not erasing you, right? It's very important to always remember who you are. And who you are is not how you handle your emotions. That just tells me there's a skill gap. Okay. Now, here's why it's hard. Most of my clients, when they first come to me, they don't understand what they're feeling or even why they're feeling what they're feeling. And to share a common example of this is that when we first start working together, my clients are often using pretty elementary, basic feeling words like good, bad, mad, sad, frustrated, angry. And those words aren't wrong, but if you have seen the emotion wheel, you know that those words are very vague, right? Those are more like umbrella words where you can actually get way more specific about how you feel than those words. And when we don't understand how we feel on a specific level, that vagueness makes it very difficult to regulate ourselves because we don't even understand what's all happening, right? So, like, let's take anger or feeling mad. Anger and feeling mad are actually feelings that mask a deeper feeling that can help us understand ourselves on a deeper level, that would help our partners understand us on a deeper level, that can allow us to know what we need to work through and what we're needing. So here's an example that I thought of when I was like sitting down to like think about, okay, how do I best explain this to the listeners? And it made me think of the times where one of my kids is wanting me to look at something, right? And they're like, Mom, look over here. They're like, Mom, look over there. Or they're like, do you see that truck? And I'm like, there's a million trucks on the street right now. I don't know which one, right? So it's like, okay, I don't even know where to begin to look, right? I'm like, and so I'm guessing, I'm scanning the environment that we're in, trying to figure out what are they looking at, right? Like, what can I focus on? I have no idea. I'm having to do a lot of work right now. And emotions are the same way, right? When we're not clear about exactly where to look, it can be very confusing for everybody involved. And we can't meet that goal, right? So like in this example, the goal of like having me see what they're looking at, because I don't know where to look. But if they were to say, oh, do you see that green car over by the red building? I have things to look for now and I can find it way faster. But it does take work for them to think about, okay, what's the best way for me to describe what I'm looking at and situationally so that mom knows where to look and she could find it faster. And our emotions are the same way, right? We've got to take the time to do the work first and figure out, what is it that I'm feeling? Are there any other feelings underneath this? So, for example, more specific words for mad could include disappointed, dismissed, lonely, unsupported. Frustrated could mean overwhelmed, anxious, again, unsupported, or angry could be unheard, resentful, scared. So these are all feeling words, but do you notice that the ones that I shared are way more specific so that you and your partner can better understand, okay, what's the next step here? Does someone need to set a boundary? Does someone need to step up more and be more of a partner? Like, what needs to happen? But if you just stick with the umbrella words, the mad, the frustrated, the angry, that doesn't really explain what's happening without lots and lots of context, right? So just like that example I gave where your kid's like, look at that truck, mom. Where? Which one? I don't know where to start to look. It's frustrating, right? And all you want to do is find the dang truck so that they can feel like you care about what they have to share with you, right? With that said, though, I do want to add the caveat that you do not need to find the perfect feeling word. It's okay if it's not perfect. What I'm challenging and inviting you to do going forward is try and find a clearer one that is more specific, so that they can kind of get an idea, a better one at least, of where you're at. Okay. And the emotion wheel is a great way to do that. And I can share a link to the emotion wheel I use with my clients. So you can find that in the show notes. That's a great way for you to improve your emotional intelligence, AKA your EQ. And that's going to really help your conversations. And that's going to really help you navigate conflict in a more productive way. Now, why does this matter? When emotions stay vague, you're leaving your partner to do a lot of guesswork, which means that they could potentially get it wrong, which means that they can get frustrated, which means that resolution is going to be harder to come by. Also, when your emotions are vague, because there's a lot of room for misunderstanding and misinterpretation, they could get defensive or overwhelmed or frustrated because maybe they don't have the experience of learning to sit with feelings and the uncomfortable feeling of knowing that you're upset. And so that could cause them to get flustered, and conflict will escalate, or maybe it'll stall and it'll be like, we're going in circles, we're not making any progress here. And so then what a lot of couples do at that point is they kind of just sweep it under the rug because life has to keep going, right? You've got kids to take care of, a house to take care of, you work, right? All the things. And next thing you know, you have a rug with a giant lump underneath that you just can't ignore anymore. And you have a ton of resentment towards each other. And that's going to affect how you communicate on a regular basis, how you interact with each other, how you partner together, how you don't want to connect anymore, right? So it can make a big difference by becoming clear with your emotions, right? When we're clear about our emotions, we do the work, we figure out how exactly we feel, our nervous system gets to settle sooner because we are now acknowledging ourselves. We understand how we're feeling. We're not left wondering like, oh my gosh, what's happening? I don't understand why I'm so upset about this, because you've done the work, right? You understand exactly why you're upset about it. And you've pinpointed the word, the feeling that describes what you are experiencing. And I don't know about you, but that's really refreshing to know that I understand how I feel about a situation. It's kind of like when someone's able to articulate verbally your experiences, you're like, yes, exactly, right? That's how I feel whenever I read specific things about like my astrology or like my zodiac sign or my human design or Myers-Briggs, like the 16 personalities. Like anytime I read something about my personality type, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. I've never seen it put that way, but yes, it makes me feel seen, right? And so you can see yourself by doing the work and figuring out, how do I feel exactly? Okay, so it helps your nervous system settle because your nervous system is settling down. It will help lower the temperature of the conversation. The climate will be better for you two to have a conversation because you're not flustered trying to figure out how you feel while he's trying to figure out how you feel and problem solve when no one has anything figured out, right? So that just improves things a whole lot, which leads to softened conversations, right? Calmer ones, and also feeling understood by your partner becomes more of a possibility. So this isn't about being dramatic. It's about being accurate. It's about being understood first by yourself so that your partner can have an easier time understanding you. So if this resonated with you and you're realizing, damn, I've never been taught this either. And you're like, I don't even know where to begin to work on this. This seems like a lot. Well, that's where getting support helps, right? I work on emotional regulation because it is such a key component to improving your communication in your marriage. So if you're like, yes, I deeply want to change how we communicate in our relationships so that we can enjoy each other more, so that we can model to our kids something that we never got, so that they don't have to struggle the same way that we have had to. Then grab the emotion wheel for starters so that you can improve your emotional vocabulary and your emotional intelligence. Grab the conflict to connection guide, which I will link in the show notes as well. This is a great way for you to have something in front of you to help slow you down, name what you're feeling more clearly, and then be able to approach conversations in a way that creates more understanding instead of escalation. Okay? And those two resources pair really well together. Okay? So, recap. Your temperament sets the volume. Your emotional language gives you clarity. Your regulation gives you choice. We always want choice, right? Choice feels good. Choice feels like freedom and empowerment, right? So the nice thing is that you can influence your emotional language, which means that you can have more clarity, and you can improve your regulation skills, which gives you more choice. All right. So you're not broken if you don't know any of this stuff, or you feel like you have lots to go. You're not behind. I also didn't have this growing up, and now I'm working with clients to help them through it. I'm using it in my marriage. My husband and I don't argue, like maybe once a year. And even then, it's tiny and we squash it really quick because I've improved my regulation skills and I've improved my emotional language so we can work through things in a much kinder, softer, more respectful, compassionate way. Our disagreements, our conflict are mostly just conversations. All right? That doesn't mean I don't get annoyed or frustrated, but we don't have massive arguments. We don't have blow ups anymore. Okay? You're learning skills that most of us were never taught, and that's pretty damn powerful. All right? So, you don't have to do this perfectly. I certainly don't do it perfectly. Sometimes I'm like, shit, time out. Let me do that over again, right? And I have to apologize. You also don't have to do this all at once, okay? It can be a lot. Just do what you can, right? Make little improvements. That's what creates sustained change. And you certainly don't have to do this alone. And if you want support to develop this and work on this, then of course I'm here. Book a clarity call. Happy to chat with you and talk about how marriage coaching can help your marriage. Okay. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do something with what you've learned today. Okay. And if you know someone that could benefit from this episode, aka every single person, then send this to them. Better yet, tag me in your story so I can give you a shout out. Also, that's like a little sneaky way to like let everyone that you love know that this is something that they would benefit from learning without pointing anybody out. Okay. Also, if you love this show, thank you so much for being here. I love that you are part of my community and that you find this podcast helpful to you. Please consider supporting the show by leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's what helps the show grow and to have more people like you find the show and get the help that they need. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you back here on the next episode. Bye. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.